Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Steve Kinney. I'm a producer and engineer. Now, I'm really excited about this video. Over the course of my channel, everybody in the comments is always asking me, how do I get a great vocal sound? Now, this is actually kind of a hard topic to cover because while it's simple in theory, there's so much nuance to the topic. There's different approaches, different microphones, different types of processing. One wrong move in either direction and it can completely throw off the sound. And then later on, you'll be fighting yourself in the mix. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you the approach that's worked for me and my mixes. I'm also going to be sharing with you some secrets that the pros won't tell you. Okay, well, they're not exactly secrets, but they almost feel like secrets because they get completely glossed over in seems like every other video that I watch on this topic. So I'm going to do my best to be as comprehensive as possible so you guys can get awesome vocals from just this video. Now, in honor of Universal Audio's brand new API launch, I'm really excited and happy to announce that I'm giving away my free vocal preset to anyone who wants it. So just go to thestevekinney.com. There's a link in the description. Now, I'm not going to do a complete review on the new API plugin just yet. That's going to come in a later video. Today, this video is all about just getting the vocal sound. So timestamps are available in this video in the description as well. All I ask is that you like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Let me know what you think of the video and let me know you stopped by. All right, now I've got a very cool little setup here at home that I could certainly track vocals and show you guys how to do it here. But we're actually going to have to head out to Blackbird Studios today. So stick around and watch the rest of the video to find out why. All right, let's go. All right, we're here in Blackbird. This is super exciting. This is my first time here in Blackbird, and I wish it was actually like my 100th time in Blackbird. But let's talk about the things that the pros do that they won't tell you. And again, it's not because it's a big secret. It's really just because it seems so overly obvious that they forget to tell you. Now, keep in mind, for those more advanced users who are watching, I do have timestamps in the description if all of this stuff that I'm talking about isn't so new to you. So feel free to jump forward. And for everybody else, keep watching because there's a lot of really good content here. All right, so this might be overly obvious, but the first thing is that your singer needs to actually be able to sing. And of course, this might be a little bit different for rappers, but the point is your singer or your rapper needs to have the talent to actually perform the take. Next, your song needs to be at a point where you're actually ready to track a vocal. Vocals are entirely all about their performance and the vibe. A track that isn't ready for vocals is not going to let the singer have that feeling that takes them to that next level to really give this song the kind of performance and intimate character that it might need. So make sure you have all of those elements in place so that your singer, when they put on those cans, they're ready to go. The third really important tip here is that you're going to need a good room, and that's 100% why I decided to come here to Blackbird today. So it's no secret, I live right downtown in the thick of it in Nashville, and so there's party buses, there's tourists out, and if I were to set up a mic like the U47 or a condenser style mic, you would hear every bit of that. So we knew we needed a place to go. So I thought it'd be really cool to come here in honor of Universal Audio's new plugin launch with the new API series stuff. So real cool. So yeah, you need a good room. And the reason being is that once you start processing your sound, you start adding in compression and EQ, you're not going to be able to take those characteristics of that bad room out. So if the room is really reverberant, that's going to completely come through no matter what you do. A bad room could also have like standing waves or weird resonant artifacts. And again, you're going to start noticing that when you start getting later into your mix. And you're going to be fighting yourself trying to make an adjustment with EQ or trying to add compression to try to get rid of it, and you'll go crazy trying to get rid of it because you won't be able to. Now, I'm not saying that you can't get a good vocal take at home. You absolutely can. You just have to take some extra steps to really make sure that you're getting the most from the room that you're in. Try to treat it as best you can. But of course, nowadays you can always rent out a room around town, and that's always a good option too. And again, this is why we've traveled here to Blackbird today. It's reasonable to come here and it sounds absolutely awesome, and you get access to all of this cool gear. Next, you're going to want to have your session actually ready to go and loaded up, so when your singer gets here, all they got to do is put on the headphones. So this means if you're working with an artist, you're going to want those mics set up and ready to go. You're going to want the headphone mix to have a general good starting point, so when they put their headphones on, you can start tweaking to their preference. This way, there's way less downtime. There's nothing worse for an artist that gets to the site and gets to the location. They're ready to sing their vocals. They've prepped themselves mentally, and then you're there putting a shock mount on a mic stand and running a cable. Now, if you're working on a project for yourself, maybe prep the session the night before so that when you wake up and you get ready to do your session, all you got to do is just turn on the program, turn on your interface, and you're ready to go. And then finally, set the mood. Have a bottle of water ready to go for your artist. Maybe turn down the lights. Have some sort of ambient lighting. The goal here is to make your artist feel really comfortable and feel really inspired. And finally, in today's modern age, it still makes sense to print off your lyrics. This is actually the second attempt at making this video, and it's because when we were doing the tracking, Kat had her phone on and the phone was buzzing, and I wasn't watching her, so I didn't know that she had it on until I got home and critically listened, and I could hear little ticking from the cell phone. All right, now let's talk hardware and microphones. Now again, some really obvious points here. On a needs basis, you're gonna need a good microphone. But that being said, there are no perfect microphones. One mic that might sound amazing on your voice might sound absolutely terrible on your best friend's voice. So keep that in mind. And I always say just audition microphones. Try this one out and then have another one right next to it ready to go. Try that one out. Now that said, traditional choices like condensers or tube condensers are awesome starting points, and they always sound nice and big and really detailed. A helpful pointer and a pro tip is know your sound. If you just need something that's really gritty, really nasty sounding, grab a 57 or grab an old mic, grab a vintage mic, grab something that just sounds terrible and just gain the heck out of it until it gets gritty and sounds cool. Get creative. Next, you're going to need headphones. Ideally, these headphones are going to be closed back headphones so that they don't bleed into the microphone while you're doing your take. Now, on the topic of headphones, I mention this on my channel all the time, and it's a pro tip. If you have a smaller interface that only has one headphone output and you haven't come to Blackbird, maybe pick up a headphone splitter so that you can monitor together in real time. Next, you're definitely going to need a pop filter. This is really important. It keeps the mic from overloading when you say words that start with P or B, you know, the plosives, that plume of air that comes and overloads the mic.
You pull me close enough to feel your breath. You trace the fingers down the back of my neck. My body is...
Having a pop filter prevents that from happening. Next, you're going to want a good mic pre. Now, I like the Unison Tech inside of Apollos. I think it sounds absolutely phenomenal and rivals some of the best hardware that's out there. Now, if you don't have access to something like an Apollo and you have just like a basic interface, you could go out and pick up some sort of external mic pre to run into that interface, and that'll help you get a better mic pre sound going into your DAW. And just off the top of my head, I can think of, you know, Warm Audio makes some really good stuff. Heritage Audio makes some really good stuff. Always be looking to the secondhand markets. A great website and resource for this is reverb.com. It's where I picked up my really famous Dolby 361As. I highly recommend that you guys go there when you're on a budget. Find some great deals. And then finally, you're gonna need a good interface. Now, I know this kind of goes hand in hand with the last point, but it's a little bit of a nuanced difference. You see, if you're using really nice outboard mic pre's, like the mic pre's that could be found in this API 1608 board, and you're going into a really bad interface, well, it doesn't really matter at that point how good your mic pre is because your interface is. So a good interface here is going to make a big difference with respect to using a decent mic pre. And then, of course, there's some additional tools like EQ, compression, de-essing, and then things like reverb or delay, ambient effects. You're definitely going to need those too, and a lot of that does come with every major DAW today. So you could certainly get some great effects through that. I myself am a huge fan of UA and everything that they offer, but of course you could still go with real outboard gear as well. So if you haven't noticed, as far as hardware and microphones go, there's a whole lot that really completes this picture of a good vocal. It's not just one key piece of gear that's going to make your vocal sound absolutely amazing. It's not just one fab filter. It's not just one universal audio plugin. It's the whole thought process around it. All right, so now that we got all of the gear and those kind of topics out of the way, let's talk about the steps required to actually get the sound and make sure that what you're recording sounds good on the way into your DAW. The way that I like to think about this is broken down into two steps. You have tracking, then you have your editing and mixing phase. So let's talk tracking first, right? When you're positioning your singer, you want to make sure that your singer is somewhere between 5 to 8 inches or so off the microphone. Now, of course, this is mic dependent. Some microphones require that you be a little bit closer. Some microphones are really, really sensitive to that. So use your best judgment there. What I like to do is place the pop filter so that they can't go any further and cause the mic to overload or start to really overemphasize the proximity effect. It also helps deal with the inverse square law. Now, if you don't know what the inverse square law is, the most simplest explanation for the inverse square law is that the closer that you get to the mic, the more noticeable every little movement around the mic becomes.
I'm on fire, fire, burning up with desire. I got smoke in my eyes 'cause you make it so hot. You're setting off sirens.
And this can be really distracting and absolutely detrimental to your recording. So don't be getting too close to your microphones. You're probably doing it wrong. Then, of course, the further away from the microphone you are, the less proximity effect that there is. The proximity effect is basically the closer you get to the microphone, the more amplified the bass frequencies become to the microphone. And then creatively, the most simplistic way to think of mic positioning is that the closer you are to the microphone, the more direct the sound is going to be perceived. And then the further away from the microphone that you are, the more of the room that you're going to get captured into that signal. The next thing you're going to want to make sure that you're doing when you're tracking your vocals is using a high pass. Now, I like to use a high pass both on the microphone and on the preamp. The reason for this is that I've found that when I start to use compression, all of that bass response in the voice starts to get pulled back up from compression. And if I have a bunch of low-end noise that I don't need, low-end rumble, it's just going to start to make the vocals sound muddy, and it's not the effect that I want.
I'm on fire, fire, burning up with desire. I got smoke in my eyes 'cause you make it so hot. You're setting off sirens.
Let's go ahead and do that again, but I'm going to have the high pass enabled. All right, cool. Here we go. We'll do that one more time. Here we go.
I'm on fire, fire, burning up with desire. I got smoke in my eyes 'cause you make it so hot. You're setting off sirens.
Now, on the topic of high passes on different mic pre's, some are fixed high passes and others are variable. I like to use the SSL and the API mic pre plugin emulations by Universal Audio. And just like the consoles, the real life consoles, the high pass is variable, so you can kind of tailor it to the performance and tailor it to the singer. And again, I'm giving away my vocal preset on the API Vision Channel Strip plugin for the UAD platform, so go check that out. The link's in the description. Next, we got to talk about getting a level and finding the sweet spot. Now, this is something that everybody talks about, and I feel like they say a very similar thing, but they don't really tell you how to get there. So let's kind of recap a little bit. Typically, you're going to want your peaks to be just under -6 dB. If the occasional peak is above that, no big deal. This is all ballpark stuff. And I try to get my average level. Again, I just kind of eyeball it. So if the singer is singing through their song and I'm kind of seeing the meter kind of going somewhere around -18 to -12, again, give or take. Now, the way I go about getting there is that I listen to the song before the singer gets there, and I listen to the guide track, and I try to find where the most energy and the most excitement's going to be. And then when the singer gets into the booth, I try to have them go through that part and adjust the level based around that.
Enough.
Okay, cool. Cool, so I think we've got a good level here. We're going to do this pass, and then I'm going to go a little too far with the saturation on it. So I think it sounds okay. How's it sound in your ears?
You're good.
All right, cool.
I'm on fire, fire, burning up with desire. I got smoke in my eyes 'cause you make it so hot. You're setting off sirens.
Then once I reach that sweet spot, what I like to do is just pull the level down just about a dB, maybe a dB and a half, because once the singer really gets into the performance, they're likely going to start singing harder and a little louder. And this just ensures that once they really get into it, that you've already compensated for that on the front side. One more thing to avoid, it's nice to get preamp saturation, but going too far and getting distortion just sounds a little funky. And yeah, so listen for distortion and dial it a little bit back. All right, cool, great job. Now I'm just going to push this a little too far.
I'm on fire, fire, burning up with desire. I got smoke in my eyes 'cause you make it so hot. You're setting off sirens.
Now during tracking, we got to talk about EQ. I think in the tracking phase, a less is more approach is my motto. So I'll season to taste my EQ. If I want a little bit more, I'll boost it in that direction, but it's very incremental, it's very low. That way I can really do what I want to do after the fact in post. Okay, cool, so I'm gonna engage the EQ now and get a little bit of taste there, a little flavor there.
I'm on fire, fire, burning up with desire. I got smoke in my eyes 'cause you make it so hot. You're setting off sirens.
We're not working on tape anymore. We have endless amounts of resources in our computers, so why limit yourself and lock yourself in on the front side? Which brings me to compression, and again, it's kind of the same thought process here. During tracking, if I use compression, if I do, it's gonna be really gentle, and it's again because you're not gonna be able to take this out if you stamp it in on the way in. So if I do use it, it's really only there to kind of catch a peak here and there. Now, if you're bold or if you're very used to using compression, maybe you can go ahead and feel comfortable enough to just stamp it on the way in, but if you're working with a client, I know I personally don't like to lock myself into a sound too early during the tracking phase. And one really cool thing about the Apollos is that you can have your compression and your EQ, you can have that all in monitor mode so that you're not committing to that on the front side, which I think is pretty cool. All right, great job. Now we're gonna add in some compression just for monitoring. So I've got this compression on here, but we're not actually tracking it, it's just in the monitor mode. But let's go ahead and just get a pass since we have it set anyway.
I'm on fire, fire, burning up with desire. I got smoke in my eyes 'cause you make it so hot. You're setting off sirens.
And again, when you're using each one of these gain stages, such as EQ and compression, every piece of the chain, you want to make sure that you're following that level guideline. So you're sticking that level to somewhere around -18 to -12 with those peaks somewhere around -6. This ensures that you're going to have good gain staging along the way of your signal chain. Now we need to talk about effects. Now, while you could certainly throw a de-esser on your channel and monitor through that or maybe record through that, you're more than likely just going to be using CPU resources and DSP resources that you just simply don't need to do at this point in time. Save things like de-essers and special processing for the edit phase or the mixing phase. However, I do like to have reverbs and delays while I track. I just don't put them on the track. I make sure that they're bussed out to a second track or an aux bus for monitoring. The reason for this is that every singer likes to have that huge LA sound. They want their vibe on their voice. So I like to have like a reverb or a delay on the side ready to go so I can start giving a little bit of sauce just so that the singer feels the vibe as they're doing their performance. So I've got some delay on for you. I'm gonna make it more of like a reverby thing.
Okay. I'm on fire, fire, burning up with desire. I got smoke in my eyes 'cause you make it so hot. You're setting off sirens.
Do you want a different reverb?
That sounds good. I'm happy. This is just on monitoring anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all good.
All right, cool. Now, as far as recording those reverbs, if you have like an outboard unit that you're trying to use and it has like really cool sonic characteristics, just make sure that if you're recording that on the way in, that you're doing it on a separate channel so that you can fade it in with, you know, whatever you're working with later on. And also make sure that you're comping that along with that vocal. So now you should have your vocal ready to record. You've got your level, you've got your effects for monitoring, you've got your reverbs and your sends off to the side. So now you're ready to actually go through and do a pass. It's probably a good idea at this point to communicate with your singer or your artist. Make sure that it feels right for them in their headphone mix. And if you've got any constructive criticism, make sure that you approach it gently and you are encouraging to your artist. Let them know they're doing a great job and they sound good. And then for you yourself, make sure you're paying attention to what they say. If they say they want more of this, or if they, you know, if they want a little bit more reverb, or if something's not right, make sure you're really listening and interpreting that correctly so that you can give them back what they're asking for. And then finally, the pro tip here is that you have a talkback functionality. Now this is pretty easy to do with almost any interface as long as you have two channels. You could have one channel for your singer and then you could have the other channel having just like a cheap mic off to the side. And you would just mute that microphone while you don't need it. And then when you need to say something to them, you just unmute it and say what you need to say. All right, so now that we have tracked our vocal, we are now ready to go back to the studio at home and edit this up and go through that step. So I'm headed back to my studio and we're gonna discuss everything else post-production. All right, cool. All right, well, we just got back from Blackbird Studios, had a blast there. Working in that room was absolutely awesome. It was so cool. And the API board sounds amazing. So now that we've got our vocal tracked and that's all out of the way, we did everything right all the way up until this point. We want to make sure that we get the post-production done right, and this is where a lot of the magic happens as well. So following tracking, what we need to do is comp and edit our vocal performance. And in order to do that, what we're going to need to do is choose the best takes, mash them together, and then chop out all the dead noise. Sometimes in the background you'll hear like a headphone cable bouncing off the floor, or you know, like a shirt ruffling. So you want to make sure that in those in-between points when your singer is singing that you cut that out. Additionally, this is where that really nice room comes in handy. So let's jump to the take here and just start to cut out some of this dead noise. Now we really only are going to use the chorus section in this example, so let's just get this set up for editing real quick. So I'm going to go to my mixer and I'm going to end up soloing out this vocal. I'm also going to make sure that I have the effects or any effects that I have muted, and I'm also going to disable this plugin here. So what we would do is we would just start zooming in here. Let's change our grid to something like that. There we go. So you want to cut out all of these little dead noises, like the little breaths and anything that can just make the performance kind of feel flat. And then of course you're going to want to fade into these sections. All right, here's a section that we'll cut out. We'll cut out dead noise like this. Add a fade, add a fade. And you're just gonna wanna go through and just give it the best feel that it possibly can. Then once you're done editing and cutting out any dead noises or any little nasty bits out of the performance, you're gonna wanna make sure that you tune your vocal track. Now this is one of the most key elements in getting your vocal to sound absolutely amazing. It's no secret that every song on the radio is just tuned to hell and back, and this is your competition, so make sure that you're tuning your vocals too. With really good singers, you might be able to get away with just auto-tuning them. Other singers, you might want to have more specific control over what notes you're tuning, and so that's where Melodyne comes into the picture. I like to have that extra level of control, but sometimes I really do reach for auto-tune as well. So again, there's no perfect tool here, but just get the job done. Now you're also going to want to make sure that your tuning is in the very first insert slot, so let's go ahead and do that real quick.
I am on fire, fire, burning up with desire. I got smoke in my eyes 'cause you make it so hot. You're setting off sirens.
Awesome, cool. So in this case, this auto-tune program is gonna get the job done quickly, and for this example, I'm gonna stick with that. So now we've comped it, we've tuned it, now we're ready for some of those extra layers of processing. But the first step that you're going to want to do now is you're going to want to make sure that you remove any unwanted frequencies or any corrective EQ, listening for weird resonances, listen for harsh sounds, this might be where you want to put on your de-esser. Now this is where a lot of people love to use FabFilter. It's an awesome program for corrective EQ, so I certainly recommend it. In this case, I'm giving a shot to New Gen Audio. So all we're going to use this for is really just cutting out some of those low frequencies, making sure that that's not in this signal path. So let's give this a listen real quick and see what the EQ is telling us.
I am on fire, fire, burning up with...
So you can see on the graph there is a little bit of low frequencies that we don't want, so we're just going to filter those out a bit.
I am on fire, fire, burning up with desire. I got smoke in...
Cool, so I think that's at a really good starting point. We'll go ahead and start adding some compression, and this is probably where you're going to want to listen to the rest of the track as you're building this out. Now, a classic signal chain that everyone likes to start out with is the 1176 into the LA2A. A note on compression and how you use it. The goal here is to tame the lows or the quiet parts of the signal and make them closer to the loud parts of the signal. So when you start using your fader to adjust where your vocal is sitting in the mix, that you find a nice place for it to kind of balance out and sit well in the mix, as well as shaping the front end of the track so that the words kind of pop out. Alternatively, you could always try the all buttons in mode on the 1176 for a really cool hyped effect. So let's give that a go here. So we're going all buttons in.
I am on fire, fire, burning up with desire. I got smoke in my eyes 'cause you make it so hot. You're setting off sirens.
So now that we've added the processing into the track, you can start to hear that the S's are starting to be a lot more pronounced and they're standing out a little too much. So we could start to add some corrective EQ, either before the compression if need be, if it's like a weird resonance. But in this case, I could just add my de-esser after the compression here. So for that, we're going to use this Oxford suppressor de-esser, and let's give this a listen.
I am on fire, fire, burning up with desire. I got smoke in my eyes 'cause you make it so hot. You're setting off sirens. I am on fire, fire, burning up with desire. I got smoke in my eyes 'cause you make it so hot. You're setting off sirens.
All right, cool. I think that that's in a pretty good spot. What we can do now is we can bring our sends back in and start to give the vocal track more of its vibe and its essence. This is where you're going to notice the biggest difference. So while we were tracking, I used the Galaxy Tape Echo, and let's just kind of listen to how that sounds on its own. Let's solo that out.
I am on fire, fire, burning up with desire. I got smoke.
So I like the vibe of that, but I don't think it's the exact thing that I'm going to be going for in this instance. Let's swap this out to something like, let's swap this out to the Lexicon and see if we can do better there.
I am on fire, fire, burning up with desire. I got smoke in my eyes 'cause you make it so hot. You're setting off sirens.
And then of course we could always add a little bit of slapback delay, maybe just something to kind of space it out a little bit more.
I am on fire, fire, burning up.
So I think I might want this to sync up and be a slower delay.
I am on fire, fire, burning up with desire.
Perfect, let's listen to this in context.
I am on fire, fire, burning up with desire. I got smoke in my eyes 'cause you make it so hot. You're setting off sirens.
Cool, so I think that sounds absolutely awesome, especially with the lexicon and that little extra delay there. I think it's really, really vibey, and it kind of gives it that really big sound that I'm going for. So there you have it from start to finish. That's how I go about getting my vocals and the steps to take to keep in mind to get a great vocal sound. It's at this point that I'd probably start automating my mix, and a cool trick that you can play around with is automating the send to the effect track. So you could have a drier sounding voice in a verse and then automate the send out during the choruses so it gets real big. That's a pretty cool tool. So try that in your next mix. So now you should be ready to tackle any vocal project. You know how to approach your vocal, so it now shouldn't matter if you have a really, really intimate singer or if you have a singer that is just belting it. You should be able to tackle that like a champ. And again, a reminder, if you have multiple microphones, always A/B them, give them a shot if you have the time. Now, if you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Leave a comment below, let me know your thoughts, I'd love to hear them. And subscribe to my channel for more on Luna and UAD and all things production. If you'd like to work with me directly, you can find me on Instagram at @stevekinney. And be sure to check out the Console Classics and Heritage Classics packs. It's on my website, it's available now. It's a great way to support the channel, so I certainly appreciate it. We'll see you on the next video, guys.